All right, welcome everybody. So this is it. It's big. Robotaxi changes everything for Tesla. This is a whole new business model. No drivers, no car sales, just pure recurring revenue at massive margins. It's not about beating Uber. It's about making Uber obsolete. The moment Tesla flips the switch, the company transforms overnight. We got the bulls here with us today. I've got Tesla boomer mama, the queen, Alexandra Mertz, the power bull. We got Cern Basher, the bot bull, and we have James, the Invest Answers, the analytical bull. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, Herbert.
Hey, Herbert.
Let's talk stock. James, you always come with lots of slides. We've got some analysis here. We're going to talk stock. Then we're going to talk about the most important thing that's happened to Tesla, the transformation to this new recurring revenue business model. What's going on with the stock, James? You're on mute.
Art, if you want to show it real quick. And it's good to see everybody again. And by the way, last time we were together was a month ago, and so much has transpired. It's kind of nutty. Anyway, it's good to be back with you all. The chart, basically, before we talk about all the stuff that's going on, I think it's super interesting where we are today. I'm going to try to blow it up so I can see it on my end a little bit better. Last time we were on, the stock was at about 278, and I said it looks primed to break out. And once we get through the 200-day moving average, it's off to the races. And we went straight up to nearly, I can't remember the exact number. We shot to the moon real fast, and it was a breakout. But now we're back again. We've gone through, it feels like a year of cycles in a very short window of time. But a quick point regarding the TA, the blue line, the optimized trend, is still up only by a hair. The structure is still looking very bullish. We are above the 200-day moving average, but everything is kind of nervous right now, and we have a new bogeyman in town, and that would be the saber rattling between Iran and Israel. And that has a lot of people sitting on the sidelines. You see the price of oil spike, the price of gold spike, Bitcoin holding tough. So that's kind of where we are from the stock. But I think for today's conversation, I want to try to look around the corner beyond the Robotaxi, because we have a better surprise there too. So
thank you for that. Cern, I know you don't necessarily talk about short-term movements, but what's your thinking about what happened to the stock recently?
Yeah, as James said, the stock had a really nice move. I think it went up to about 362. And then with the quote-unquote feud between Elon and Trump, went down to about 285. So, it's bounced around a little bit lately. But certainly this is the moment that we've all been waiting for in terms of the rollout of Robotaxi. We know what's coming as far as, what it means for Tesla economically. And so it's just a question of how people want to position their portfolios for what's about to happen in the coming quarters.
Okay, Alexandra. Mute.
That's even better if I'm muted, because I can't really comment on short-term price movements. I'm over that. I'm looking at the medium and long-term picture and couldn't care less, looking for windows to enter. And I'm actually bad at timing the market, so you shouldn't even listen to me on those stuff. But I have a mission here. I have a mission here today, which I just want to share with all of you, because Cern's wife was going through a lot, right? She saw her husband a couple of days ago because of that Robotaxi driving that corner in Austin. Once for her birthday next week, a golden Cybertruck, right? And I feel I have to help her right? Live in front of everybody, and Cern. So you're executing? I
just want to say thank you for setting up the GoFundMe program.
No. I set up you, so you help us all. You help us all understand what a good husband you are and how overdue this is.
I'm a great husband. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll check next week with you.
Yeah, we're going to check up with you. 2 weeks from now, you need to buy her a golden Cybertruck. And no, nobody should do GoFundMe for a Cybertruck. That's ridiculous, guys. So here we are talking about, this is a change in Tesla's business model, right? This is a move from selling cars to recurring revenue, massive margins. We're talking about Robotaxi. When are the public, when is investors going to wake up to this and realize this? Only we are excited today, realizing that this transformation is actually happening.
I may take this first. I still think this will take quite a while for Wall Street to understand it and for the stock price to reflect it. First of all, there are so many people now just waiting for the first mishap, right? I mean, there will be mishaps, so just get used to that. That will happen. You all remember initially how the Waymos were driving around themselves or were getting stuck in potholes and whatever. I don't think Tesla will have mishaps at that level, but what you know, right? There's so many things that can happen. So that's the first thing. The second is until we know the business model, until we know the price per mile, until we know how quickly this goes beyond Austin, I think the projections of Wall Street are still very, 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 very conservative. So this might take a year to really be seen in the stock price. And it doesn't matter to me, but if you feel this is something that should be reflected next week, you probably will be disappointed.
Now, so symbolic still at this point. What do you think, James?
And it's one of those things that there's a bigger picture, and Wall Street has never seen something like this before. So it doesn't quite comply with their spreadsheet templates to forecast what's exactly going to happen. And it's really, how do you model a complete revolution in transportation? And that's the big question. They are so far ahead in so many respects and have so many moats that simply nobody can compete or catch up. And that's the dilemma. And Wall Street, I must say, I'm so proud of every single every single retail investor watching us here, because you are front running the hedge funds and Wall Street as well, and absolutely not afraid to buy the dip, which is remarkable. So we're seeing a weird situation where Wall Street have no idea how to value this thing. They've never seen it before. It doesn't comply. It's still a consumer goods company, when literally it could be on the cusp of doing massive OEM license deals. So just imagine what happens when we pivot from a consumer goods company that makes maybe plastic bowls or something, it sounds like, to something that empowers transportation across the planet in real time. That is the moment. And the thing is, as well, I just want to say one other thing. We are blessed that Wall Street is so incompetent. They were clever. They have the opportunities themselves. So everybody, when you see, like, I'm hoping we see another $300 bite at the apple in the coming week or two. I'm hoping it's a sell the news event, because what happens in the 2 years after that will be bonkers, just like Elon said. So
just to build on what James said, Herbert, Wall Street has missed this opportunity so far. What I think is going to happen is people are going to experience Robotaxi themselves. We're going to see a lot of videos of people taking, from their rides. Perfect for social media. Most people out there have no idea that this is even a possibility. There's a lot of people on the street that have no idea that Teslas can drive themselves, right? As much as we are aware of it in the Tesla community, the average American has no idea about this. And so it's going to absolutely blow their mind when they see on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and other social medias videos of people riding in a vehicle that's driving itself. Now, the true moment will come when the golden cybercabs are out there, but that's next year. But I think we're going to see sort of a groundswell of awareness. And I guess the question is, where's the tipping point? And I think there will be one. And I think what will happen is that will get a lot of people, retail investors, excited about investing in Tesla. And again, I think Wall Street will be caught flat-footed and will be chasing the stock.
I agree, even more so than we are currently at an all-time high of more than $7.4 trillion in money market funds. We always had this feeling, because lots of stocks are close to their all-time highs. I think Microsoft had its all-time high again today. But there is more money in money market funds than ever before. So the moment will come when rates come sufficiently down and people get back into the market. We are ETFs, so we are direct investments. And that will be the moment that Tesla will profit from the market. Not because there is a news at that moment, but because there is a shift in the underlying allocation.
What do you guys think about the Tesla Q, right? The doubters, this is what they're saying. Number one, it's delayed, right? Number one. Number two, it's just a few cars. Look at them. They can't even roll out more than 1, 2, whatever. 3, they're saying that, oh, there's a passenger sitting beside these guys. And then we already know, we're hearing that there's news reports saying that there's going to be protesters out there. Dan O'Dowd, and he's got his group there. They're going to shake up and they're going to try to, say false things and maybe even trip up the cars themselves. What do you guys think might happen in the next month or so?
Yeah, I want to quickly pick up on Dan O'Dowd. So he actually partnered, get that right, with those Tesla resist people. You know, those ones that organized these Saturday protests in front of the Tesla shops. I mean, can you imagine? This is this billionaire sitting in Santa Barbara, just up the hill where I look on. I mean, I'm one of those small houses on close to the beach, but he's sitting in his palace up there, and he has another palace even further back, and spending now tens of millions of dollars to help the world see the light that Teslas are not safe, right? That's the proclaimed thing. He even ran for governor in California to put a spotlight on this. This man is so bitter. He told himself, I don't have to invent anything. He's told himself how he worked as a contractor, with the people that worked on initial FSD and got fired by Elon. I think it was in 2015. He obviously has a crutch against Elon. He is completely eaten up by his bitterness. And now this billionaire works with Resist. I mean, the most leftist groups here in the United States to organize manifestations or protests, or I don't even know what they want to do in Austin. I just can't believe it. So he's obviously funding this because they are obviously gullible to anybody who helps them with funds. It just feels so wrong. It feels so wrong. And I can't believe. The good thing is actually the article of CNBC, and I have to say for once that Laura Colotny did her job, mentioned straight away below it that his firm, Green Hill Software, which is becoming completely redundant, but that's another subject, is actively working still today with Ford and with Toyota. So at least the press is trying to bring some neutrality and show that he may have more interests than just the safety of our nation. The whole thing is so ridiculous, but it shows how far Elon haters and Tesla haters are going. And so here we are.
Yeah, and just to hammer that home, his software company is about to get a pin stuck right in it, and it's going to take it to zero value. So, but it's not just that, but I don't know if there's a word for somebody who is very anti-philanthropic, but that would be him. I mean, to drop 10 million to burn Tesla dealerships down.
It was 10 million. It was 10 million 2 years ago, and those English lawyers are still around. I actually met them at Target the other day. I mean, this is completely ridiculous that I'm crossing his street. I'm driving in front of his firm at least once a week, and I'm meeting his lawyers in the Target aisle where they buy their beer. I mean, the whole thing is completely absurd. And so I go and they go, oh, we saw your husband. He was not on FSD. Oh, we saw you were on FSD. And I was like, what? Excuse me? Do you have nothing else to do than check how we're driving our cars, right? So this is, and these guys, they are lawyers. They are paid by him to live in Santa Barbara and work with him on the next strategy to show. I mean, the whole thing is to vomit. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole world is, every industry is now being impacted by Musk Industries. No wonder the world is so against him, because he's putting a pin in everything. Like a Bloomberg terminal, what is it, 32,000 now? When X literally is better and faster and it's free. So, anyway, crazy times. Let's move on to the bigger stories.
Okay. Do you have, what's your next topic there, James?
Well, I think we need to talk about, there's a lot of questions that drive a lot of other questions that at least from what I'm hearing out there, a lot of people are very concerned about maybe potential risks. And I love it when people are calling out risks. So let me just hit a couple of quick ones and see what you all think. One, could there be further delays, or is this purely because of the riots in LA and the plan for whatever that King's Day is on the 14th, something like that? The other thing is, will these things be vandalized and sabotaged? We see them running around Austin, and the good thing about Austin, Texas, that they have laws there. So, and we've seen they have laws in Florida. So I don't know if it'd be as easy for protesters to vandalize and burn stuff. But then there are other measures as well that the car could take if it does perceive itself in danger, other than a Waymo just sitting still and being torched. Then there's other fear that people have that there could be a taxi industry backlash because of the threat, even an Uber industry backlash too. And then other people are concerned that, yeah, this maybe is a nothing burger, this whole Robotaxi. They'll only have 20 cars or 100 cars or whatever. We can dispel that during this video today. But they're just some of the top topics that I believe are under the umbrella of cybercab rollout risks. And I think we can dispel them all here today. So where should we begin?
I'll just start with the Uber backlash. I find that kind of rich because of what Uber did to the taxi industry.
Exactly.
Right. to now claim all these years later that Uber needs to be somehow protected is kind of rich, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, with every Tesla having video cameras, hopefully anybody who tries to do anything that's crazy is going to be caught in camera. And then good news for Tesla, of course, is that these are not the specialized $250,000, $200,000 Waymos. This is just a regular Tesla Model Y. So if one of them is vandalized, they take it home that night, they insert another Model Y just off the factory, or they've got so many sitting there, and it doesn't cost them anything. Just put that into circulation. And then, this idea that they're only going to start with 10, and then 20, this is, I think, part of that strategy. If you started with 200, then it's a lot easier for these events to happen, right? And you can't stop it. But if it's only 10, you're watching it closely. Everybody's watching it closely. And then also, like, it's like controlling the narrative. I think Tesla will be able to just slowly do it, not a big fanfare, and let it already happening and get people more accustomed to this happening already. Because the worst thing you want to do is have that, we're going to launch Robotaxi today. And then that very first drive, something happens and it was orchestrated. I don't put it past Dan O'Dowd to, do crazy things like, I don't know, nails on the street, or, convince a dog to run across just in time. And then they can use that as a PR. Things like that will happen. And so doing it very slowly is the right way to do that.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, in terms of slowly, I tried to put together a timeline of how we could get to 1,000 Robotaxis by the end of the year. It's a bit of an eye chart. I didn't have time to make it better, but let me try and walk you through it. This is basically, the pilot starts with 10 to 20, and then within 2 weeks, 40 Model Ys, and then within 2 weeks, 80 Model Ys, and then very quickly after that gets to 160, and then 640 and 1,000. And that's just Austin. And then we add the second city. It could be Scottsdale or somewhere like that in Arizona, or somewhere else in Texas. Same thing, 20, 40, 60, but at an even faster pace. And then we get a third city by December, starts with, say, 20 to 40 Model Ys. By the end of the year, if this model kind of Gantt chart timeline works out, we could easily get to 1,000 plus Robotaxis. And by that time, the competition like Waymo and Uber will see the destruction in their cities and get very nervous. And then the big shorts will pile into Ubers of the world, etc. when they see that. And then Wall Street will have to re-underwrite what this thing means. But the point of this is it could take till December to get to 1,000 cars. And I know you've done a lot of modeling on this too as well, sir. And what are your thoughts in terms of where we are by December, which is really 6 months away? Not a lot of time.
No, it's not. the key thing for Tesla is to make sure, and Elon talked about this week, to make sure it's safe, that it's reliable. So whatever period of time is necessary for them to be confident that they can roll it out, let these vehicles loose in Austin, not have a follow car, right? When they reach that level of confidence, then they should ramp very quickly. By
Okay, so
ramping very
you're saying
quickly,
you're saying like not like 20, 40, 60, but going 100, 200, 400. Okay.
yeah, there's no point at that point to ramp slowly. Once you get to the level of whatever confidence they need to say, hey, our vehicles now have driven every road in the city. There's no reason to be cautious anymore. We've tested this, let's ramp. That also helps deal with any potential issues, because Dan O'Dowd can't stop 1,000 vehicles driving around Austin. He can disrupt, a handful of them, and then he'll be arrested, and then that problem's gone, right? So that also helps address sort of the issue of disruptions. If you have so many out there, you can't disrupt them all. On the issue of how long does it take for them to be confident that the service is safe and reliable, I don't know. That might be longer than we expect. But that's okay, because when they do decide to ramp, they can ramp very quickly in any of these cities. So I'm not really so worried about how many vehicles they have by December, right? And again, this might be where there's an opportunity with the stock. If the ramp, if the period of time is longer for them to satisfy themselves that everything is working properly and safe, that's where that could cause some hiccups for the stock, because people will be like, oh, look, they're having problems, this is not going to work. Actually, no, they're just making sure that they're ready to hit that ramp button.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you, CERN. Anybody who has ever opened a retail store, and I've helped a lot of restaurants open, know that what they do is a soft opening. And then that can take a week, that can take 4 weeks until everything works the way they want it. And then it's full service. So I agree with you, CERN. Once everything is in place, it will be over-the-air updates to all the cars that are going to be dedicated at that. The stickers put on those cars, and off they are. And we can go very, very quickly to a high number. But up to that moment, it's going to be a daily assessment whether we've made progress towards that road, and we just have to be patient. It doesn't matter whether it takes now 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months. It really doesn't matter. What matters is deciding the moment when you go from soft opening to full service.
And we have to admit as well, Elon has been exuding confidence lately in his tweets. I'm sure you've all seen that as well. And they talked about 4x the parameters as well coming up. So
Yeah,
I mean, that's not really the confidence. That is just, with the mess in LA, we're much better off.
Yeah, no, that's not the
launching
one.
it
But
in Austin,
yeah.
and we have the governor confirming that he is that he's going to protect Texas completely differently the way California is managed.
This guy was asking, when is the first public ride start? And Elon said, tentatively June 22nd. We're being super paranoid about safety. This date can still shift. But then he said, first Tesla that drives himself from the factory end of line all the way to a customer house is June 28th. This is
that's
this
much
month.
easier, Herbert. That's much easier. Driving the Tesla from the factory to a predefined address where somebody's waiting for it is not an issue. Having public available to download the app and call the car and take it, that's a completely different ball game. So I mean, I'm happy he left that quite vague, because obviously today is the 12th and none of the protestations and showcasing of Dan O'Dowd and his fellow friends has taken place, or at least not that we know about it. So I guess they have moved that date to whatever else date they think. And more Elon stays vague on that date, more difficult it is for them to organize. And I think that's just as well.
very good point.
Yeah. The June 22nd is still tentative. Man, it's gonna go really fast. I agree with you guys, except I think one of the reasons why they may not go. Okay, so I think you said CERN, right? It's going to be, let's say 10, 20, 100, and then you're much more like it can go up to 600 than 1,000 much quicker, right? And but the problem, the challenge for Tesla, I think for me, it's not that it's the technology. It's they have to go slowly just to make sure, but FSD is solved. This will work really well. The part is that they have to make sure that the infrastructure is in place, and they've never done this business before. So there's this headquarters, right, where there are TVs everywhere, monitors everywhere, video cameras everywhere, computer systems tracking every single car that's out there, and then make sure they're able to apps requesting drivers, then able to that part they haven't done. So what number could they handle? I think maybe 100. That's a lot. I mean, they won't jump to 1,000 or 2,000 until I think well past the new year, January.
And adoption takes time too. So you can't just put 1,000 cars on the road when people aren't used to that. They won't have the app or be familiar with how to order this thing, or maybe even be on a list. So that's also a big issue as well. But
yeah, and related to that, James, is that if you're going to enter in a market that's like Austin and you're going to make it public, you have to make sure that you've got enough vehicles to satisfy demand. Because if I'm waiting for a Robotaxi for an hour, I'm going to give up and say, I'll go with an Uber. Right? So you've got to make sure that, right?
You know how many Waymos there are in San Francisco? Like 300. Yeah, tiny little numbers here. That's not, we're not talking huge numbers, and then yet they're already servicing a pretty decent, geography.
Sure. Yeah, at a high price. So the question is, how quickly does Tesla want to disrupt the Austin rideshare market?
Yeah, I remember actually going back in the day to when Uber launched. The rides initially were very well supported or funded by the VCs back then. I can't remember. And it was a no-brainer to sniff out an Uber because it was half the price of a cab. And literally, within the space of 2 weeks, everybody in my network started using Uber.
Yeah.
So speed can happen. I agree with you there, Cern. Absolutely. Because you know what? People like to save money sometimes.
Yeah, and it creates that buzz. Everybody's going to tell their friends that, I rode in a Robotaxi and it was half the price of what an Uber would be, or whatever the number is.
Yeah, and didn't have to deal with a driver.
Yep.
Which is
so I'm still at 1,000 by December. Is anybody here a lot higher than that by December?
My Gantt chart is just over 1,000, and that assumes the third city begins in December.
Yeah.
So
okay, what are you saying, sir?
Yeah, my expectations are pretty low for the number of vehicles this year. And again, for me, that's not the critical thing. I mean, I'm interested in tracking that. I'm excited to track that. But I don't have a huge expectation because I think there's going to be a few kinks to work out. Right.
Yeah.
But I do think that once they are ready, then they can hit that scale button and it can grow a lot faster than most of us realize.
Yeah. I think the big topic, okay, the elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that once this thing launches and you'll have OEMs all over the world seeing it happen, they'll say, oh, we're going to be selling flip phones unless we can get FSD into our car now. And that's going to rotate in a whole bunch of OEM license deals. So the interesting thing for me was to put together all the the breadcrumbs today that existed out there and think about exactly when this could happen, how many OEMs could there be, how many cars could there be, and what could the impact be on share price? Because I think this is a bigger opportunity than the Robotaxi itself. And I can walk into this. So first of all, the big question is, do you believe an FSD deal will happen with an OEM from around the world in the next 1 to 2 years? I think it could happen within 12 months. And in fact, I think Elon Musk even dropped some breadcrumbs too with this one as well. Automakers being told that it isn't real or that just buying some hardware from NVIDIA will solve it. But as Tesla Robotaxis become widespread and their solutions don't work, they will naturally turn to Tesla FSD. And everybody in the world will be able to fly to Austin, Texas, or wherever else, San Francisco, or whatever the second city is, and take one for a spin. And then they'll see it firsthand. And the revolution is the cost is so cheap. It's mind-blowing. No other solution is remotely close. And this brings me to this question. is, and I love your input on this too, because they're just numbers. But here I assumed a couple of different situations. FSD licensing option with 20% adoption. That assumes 3 OEMs. So take, I don't know, Hyundai, Kia, maybe a Chinese OEM, and maybe a Volkswagen or General Motors or a Ford or something. They could easily put this 20% penetration, go into 3 million vehicles, which could result in 9 billion. That's just charging $3,000 per car. And that is no upfront heavy hit of an OEM license. That's just the per vehicle charge of $3,000. So my first question is that reasonable or not? 90% margin, profit would be 8.1 billion. The addition to the share price from today would be $245. If one of these hits, take a third of that. But that does not include the big hit, the slug up front for the deal to be made, nor does it take into account the re-underwriting of what Tesla is. It all of a sudden becomes a software company, which is even bigger than the money they make from $3,000 a car. Now, if you compare that to 200,000 vehicles, robotaxis, which could take 2 years to get there, I don't know, that's an 11 billion opportunity, but 50% margin. So you can see here, the OEM deal is worth a lot more in terms of share price. So 200,000 robotaxis is worth maybe $166 in share price, whereas 3 million vehicles from FSD OEM relationships, $245. And again, these are sandbagged. But the tipping point happens once we get above 500,000, 300, 400, 500,000 robotaxis, then that becomes more accretive to share price than 3 OEM licenses. And there could be a lot more. There could be 3, there could be 10. But I know that Elon also said he doesn't want to do too many of these. So I'd love to hear your perspective on this craziness.
No. He didn't say he wants too many of them. He said he wants each of them to have at least 1 million cars per year.
Yes. He said he wants to be very selective, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the 1 million EVs per year, because I'm still convinced he's not going to sell it to anything else than EVs. I mean, we can discuss that, but I may be wrong, but I really can't see him selling FSD for ICE cars. So there are not that many. There is Kia, Hyundai. There are the Chinese. There is maybe Volkswagen, but I mean, we're talking now, but they're all far from the million. So it's not. This morning, I was actually watching by pure coincidence a GM representative that I'd never seen before. It was a younger man explaining on CNBC how they've restructured, and now all the old plans are out and all the new plans are in, and everything is different, but everything is wonderful. And I thought, well, the only wonderful thing you could do is license FSD. That's the only thing that's going to save you, right? Obviously, he didn't address that because otherwise we'd all talk about it. But I do believe there is an awakening in the car industry. And one thing I want to point out, I said it to Herbert already. Herbert had Michael Dune on a week ago, last weekend, right? You aired that. I love Michael. He has a really good grip on China and how the US. He was actually in charge of GM in Asia. Indonesia, correct, for a long time, and since then has become a consultant in all this Asia field and has a lot of knowledge. But the key moment for me was that at the end, they discussed FSD and how this all changes. And Herbert had to lecture Michael. Well, I mean, you to explain to him, I don't want to sound too derogative. That's not what my feeling, that it's all about the cost per mile. And car makers are not thinking like that. Car makers are thinking margin, right? I have my 50 suppliers or my 400 suppliers. I put it all together. I build it at this price and I sell it at that price, and my franchisees are happy, right? That's their thinking. Nobody of them thinks about the cost per mile of the user. It's just a completely different universe. And they now have to shift from this slashing it all together and making a margin to the user wants a price per mile. The user wants a utility price. Yeah. And that's, it's a revolution. It's a complete revolution. It changes completely the way they are setting up business.
And to dovetail into that, Alexander, you're bang on the money. I remember in San Francisco when Uber launched, young people under the age of 30 gave up their cars because
Yep.
parking in San Francisco is expensive. It's 400,
It is.
500 bucks a month. Forget the insurance and the gas and all that headache. And even finding parking in San Francisco is a nightmare. And then if you drive to work, you got to pay for parking there too. You just get murdered. I know as so many people, they flipped overnight to become full-time Uber users. And they had this special, it was like a frequent user flyer package. You got 20% off if you do more than 10 rides a week or whatever. And everybody's doing that. So cars went out the window. So imagine what happens when it's a quarter the price of Uber.
So, James, the problem I have with the analysis that you put up there is the timeline, the timing, right? So let's assume that if you're right, that in 1 or 2 years from now, 2 to 3 automakers will finally say, yes, we're going to license with Tesla. Well, how long will it take them to get those cars you're talking about? It's going to take them 3 years or longer.
We do have a canary in the mine for this one already. And CERN, support me on this too. When the NACS happened, the North America Charging Standard, at first there was 1, then there was 3, then there was everybody. And I think if you are an OEM and you want to sell a vehicle that drives itself, you only have one shot, one option. And then I think there will easily be 3 very quickly, but then Tesla will say, hold on, that's all we're doing right now. And they'll close the door to the rest. And there might be others that sell, I don't know how many EVs Ford sell.
Yeah, I agree with you that there will be 3 in 2 years. My point, though, is that even after they say, sure, I'll do the agreement with you, how many years before they get how many cars out? Another 3 years before they even get their first car, maybe.
It depends. If it's a Chinese OEM, they'll move fast. They'll do that within a year or less. They have the ability.
So now, let's say we're 3 years out from today, 3 or 4 years before we have other car makers have some number of cars out in the road. How many cars would Tesla already have per city? How many cities, how many countries would it be approved by that?
This is the problem. They will license it and they'll buy it just to survive. But then it'll be too late, because the world will have transitioned to autonomous cabs. The car market is going to be completely destroyed. I mean, it's a zombie. ICE vehicles are toast within 5 years. I've got friends who are still buying new ICE vehicles. I'm saying, you might as well just shoot it right now in the backyard, because it's going to be worth nothing in 3 to 5 years. What are you doing?
Yeah.
They're buying Range
And there
Rovers.
are studies out there. There are studies out there saying the number of cars is going to be reduced by 80%. In the end. I mean, they all think that's 2050, but we all know that it's not going to take that much time. But there are very serious consulting firms in the car industry that warn all these OEMs. And I mean, obviously, none of them want to believe that it's them, but that by 2050, only 20% of the current car market exists. And you have to know, cars is a huge part of the world's economy. There are between 80 and 100 million cars produced every year. And while there are zones in the world where cars are still deeply necessary, but there are zones where cars will become redundant. And you're completely right, James, with your example of what happened after Uber became part of San Francisco. That's just it. That's it. People, it's a pain owning a car. It costs a lot of money, and the whole thing just rots in front of your garage, and that's it. And at one point, it's not worth anything anymore.
Yeah, the cost. A friend of mine, he took a ride 6 miles to work every day and 6 miles home. The cost with Uber was less than the cost to park his car at the office, which is crazy. Forget gas and everything else. But CERN, over to you. What do you think? Let's talk about 2 horses racing here. We've got the OEM timeline. And Herbert, you're dead right. How long will it take? But what I was struggling with is I can understand maybe each car to license FSD would be $3,000. It might be low, it might be high, I'm not sure. But if an OEM is doing a deal with Tesla, would there be an upfront payment, maybe $1 billion? Or have you modeled that out? And when could it happen? And what is the tipping point between the number of robotaxis, how many 100,000 is it, versus 3 OEM licenses? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, I think your analysis is right in terms of the profitability potential for Tesla. I'm a little bit skeptical about how big this FSD licensing opportunity will end up being. The NACS situation is kind of instructive for a couple of reasons. One is, yes, all the dominoes fell in place once one tipped, right? And that was interesting. And I think a similar thing would likely happen with FSD, to the point that Tesla wants it to happen. It's going to be interesting because actually Elon may end up playing the kingmaker role about choosing which auto OEM survive,
Oh boy.
right? Because if he doesn't do a deal with GM and Ford, they're history, right? Even if they want to. So to your point, James, about getting upfront money, that's one way that Tesla can extract that and basically say, okay, who's serious about this? Who actually wants to do this? Pay us $1 billion and we'll talk, right? So I could see that. The challenge with the next example is, how long did it take those OEMs to just install a charging port native in their cars that accepts the Tesla charger? Hasn't it been a couple of years for most of these
Yes.
companies?
Yeah.
Right. That's not FSD. That's just putting a port in the car. It took them so long just to start producing vehicles just with that. And so they move so slow. Even if a deal is done, where are they going to be in 2 or 3 or 4 years?
Okay, yeah,
Right.
I agree. Let me challenge you back though, because part of, and I sandbagged everything like hell. Remember, last year Volkswagen did a deal with Rivian. It was $1 billion with a total value of about 5.8 billion, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
That's just for software that controls the radio.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, this is a different ball of wax altogether. So take that as another ingredient to your calculation.
Well, and I think again too, because Elon says that they won't work with every automaker. So if you're going to be selective, then that means you can extract a pound of flesh up front, and that pound of flesh, to your point, could be a big number.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, I don't see that partnering FSD licensing. Tesla and Elon wants it. He's been asking about it. He's been talking about it for years. But if you really boil down the numbers, and you both have, it's better for Tesla to build a new factory to build cybercabs. If the goal is to get as fast out there with the lowest cost per mile, with the best experience,
and not sell them anymore, CERN, which I say every time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you there. I think though that Elon takes a bit more of a holistic view with this. I mean, we've seen this before. He's tried to help competition. They've made patents freely available. They shared the 48-volt architecture binder with all the auto OEM CEOs. They're trying not to operate as a monopoly. Now, the problem is that their competitors are just so ineffective that it's pretty hard for Tesla probably not to be a monopoly, because these companies they don't get it. They just can't compete.
But watch out. Ford have their skunk works in California.
Yeah.
Jim Farley says they're going to pull miracles out of that little operation. Of course they're not. It's going to be another GM all over again. But
So here's the other wrinkle to all this. Okay, we've been talking about FSD licensing to these OEMs to build what? Cars, EVs with the ability for autonomy.
Yes.
Or are they going to build a cybercab, their version of cybercab, a autonomy first built, vehicle? Because that is another whole ball of wax. This isn't just taking an existing EV that I've got. Oh, okay, now I'm going to put your software. I'm going to license you, Tesla, my tier 1 supplier. I'll pay you to put that into my existing EV. Oh, I'll remove the driver, the steering wheel and pedals, and I'm good. No, they need to be building a cybercab version, right? Without any crevices, without extra parts to reduce the cost, so that they can do cost per mile, so they can make it easier for cleaning.
No, They would restrict that.
No. I don't think it's for Tesla or Elon to decide how other cars want to use FSD, but the consumer will want cars that are full self-driving. And so if you as an OEM continue to think that you want to sell cars, because you have a franchise system where you have 10-year contracts with your franchisees that have invested a lot of money into these lots where they put their shop and their cars. So if you need to provide cars to your franchisees, not for taxi services, but for consumers who want to own cars with FSD, well, then it's not for Tesla to decide that these people build taxis. It's for Tesla to license them FSD so that they have a software that is safe and that the consumer wants. Again, I think in EVs, but I may be wrong on that point. And that's it. If GM wants to continue build retail-owned cars that are only for private use, or even that are for classic taxi use or whatever, I mean, classic cars, I don't even know how to call a car with a steering wheel anymore. But anyway, if that is it, and Tesla will be the only one that builds cars without steering wheels, but be it. I mean, they won't be the only ones. There will be other people trying to do this, and there will be an Android version of FSD maybe at one point. But the car maker that wants to make cars to sell to people that are more conservative and still want to own their cars, but they want an FSD function because they realize that they don't want to drive. They all get one thing's for sure: we're all getting older, right? And we all want to drive less. And so, and the young generation, they couldn't care less about driving. The same way they can't care less about wine drinking and whatever. There's so many things happening with Generation Z, so that everything that is changing currently is not working for the OEMs, but they still may want to provide classic cars just now with an FSD in them.
I have to laugh on the wine drinking. There's more for us.
It's true. It's true. I always mix it up, right? I always try to keep it interesting.
And more time to drink it if you're in a Robotaxi.
And to buy a Cybertruck for your wife.
Exactly. I was just thinking the Robovan for the wine country trips. Can you imagine how popular that'll be? The party bus?
There you go.
That's right.
There
Wow.
you go.
Insane.
Bachelorette
Because a limo for 6 hours is $1,200 at least. So think about what it'll do to that industry. Anyway, moving on.
Søren, have you modeled out what is the bigger margin for a company like, let's say, Tesla? If you roll out a Robotaxi program, do you make more money on the Robotaxi program, which is going to be very lucrative, it's all margin, or any kind of surrounding businesses? Like how much did Apple make when they sell hardware, the phone? How much did they make when they start selling services to that phone, right? The music, the movies, those things. How much do they make with the App Store? And how much of those apps, like Airbnb that never existed until how much did they make, and how value they make? By the time that they might just say, I'll give you FSD for free. I'll give you these Robotaxis for free, but I get to be the App Store for this.
I don't think they need to, because again, I think they're in such a sweet spot that basically they're going to decide which auto companies survive. And
they don't want to be seen as monopolistic. You have to always keep in mind, because they will dominate the market, but you have to be super careful in all markets, Asia, Europe, and the United States, that Tesla is not seen as being monopolistic. So you have to make sure that you're not having the whole line of services blocked, and everybody has to go through your little needle hole. I'll be very careful on that. And whatever Elon said the past 10 years, and I don't think he was lying on that point, is he wants to share this. He wants to make this a safer world. He wants to have less people dead on the road. And so I agree with Søren on the holistic approach of this whole thing. And again, keep in mind, try to get out of that monopolistic situation, because they will have it automatically, but they have to play nice.
Yep.
So nobody here is going to stand up and say that in 3 months from now, every single automaker is going to have this technology. Uber is going to be the winner because they're going to have all the options of
Gary
many
Black,
different.
are you here? Gary Black, are you
all
here?
the options of automakers with ability to do just like Tesla can, and that they'll be able to charge exactly the same price that Tesla can. And Tesla is just one option of multiple choices. That is what some people are saying. Some people are saying that Uber is the big winner, and that this is, great. Tesla's able to do this. This is software. Everybody can copy this.
Yeah, that is a big topic of concern that people have because of all the FUD out there. But I think we should spend a little bit of time on not only how hard it is to copy this IP, but also the competition, the so-called competition that are coming in different places. And I think Uber partnering with Wave in the UK and Huawei and others trying to do some stuff. I think it's important to understand that these often are very local solutions. And what we saw a few months ago when they launched FSD in China, what they did to FSD on the ground in that country is nothing short of amazing. They tried to take it off the edge of a cliff, everything, drove through jungles. I mean, it was just incredible. I know, Herbert, I watched your video where you showcased a whole bunch of them. It was just amazing. But I think we need to talk about the ease at which this thing can be copied, the billions of miles that they have under the belt, the 7-8 years of accumulating data, Colossus, the infra in the vehicle, the inference machine within the vehicle, Like, how easy is it for the competition to come? People don't realize it's not. And that's one of the things that I mentioned, Elon being absolutely confident is like, yeah, come at me, bro. Try copy this. It is not easy. Now, that being said, in 3 to 5 years, there could be a breakthrough in AI where it learns to drive itself. That's very possible. But you will still need the car to have all of the controls, the steering, the braking, the what do you call the G-force.
Remember somebody tried called Apple with deep pockets?
Yeah.
And tried and gave up.
Yeah.
So if Apple can't solve it, you think GM is going to solve it?
No. But I think there could be a solution out of Asia or some other AI solution.
Well, the argument, Elon just said it, it's that automakers are being told that, number one, this isn't real. Tesla can't do it. So, okay. And then on the other side, they're being told that I'm just going to buy hardware from NVIDIA and that's my solution because they're going to be able to solve it through that route.
Press the button. It'll work. So, yeah. Cern, what do you think? Talk a bit to us about the IP, and is there a technology theft risk? A lot of things I hear as well. People say, well, somebody can just buy a Tesla and reverse engineer it and then they're good to go.
And in that subject, you probably saw this morning the Bloomberg article that Tesla is suing one of its ex-employees who left in 2024, who worked on the bot, on the hand of the bot, which obviously is one of the key parts, and then set up a company for a hand of a robot. And they're suing him. And the guy can't be found at the moment, so I don't know where he's gone. But Tesla has certainly learned quite a lot of the lessons. It's one thing making patents available to the industry. It's another, and I mean, we see it with the updates on the bot, right? They're so much shorter, so much more sporadic, not as frequent anymore. Since the second AI day, they have not shared as much anymore. They've learned their lesson that there are people out there that are trying to copy or trying to steal, and they're being much more careful and proactive about it.
I agree.
The way I think about this is when you have traditional software, you can see the lines of code. And so, of course, if you can get your hands on that code, then you can copy it. The way I think of a neural net, if you were to take a Tesla and try to extract the neural net, from the car, it'd be like getting a bag of code that's been shredded.
Yep.
You wouldn't know what to do with it, right? Try to stitch it together, right? Good luck. So I think, from what I know, from what I understand about how this is created and how this works, is that you just can't copy it. Do we have Chat GPT copies? Has somebody taken Chat GPT off of their computer and copied it and made it available to the world for free? No, that hasn't happened. Right now, the Chinese with DeepSeek did some things to the models to try to make them more efficient and all that. Fine, that's different. So I don't think that's a risk with Tesla. You have to, as James said, you have to do the work. You have to collect the miles, collect the data. You got to build the data centers. You need time in the data centers with all these machines running day in and day out for weeks or months at a time to develop a new model. And that's where people also misunderstand is Tesla is not standing still. Tesla is still investing a ton of money into compute, right? It's building these data centers, and it's the area under the curve. It's the number of the amount of compute they have, and it's time. And if Elon's talking about building a model that's 4.5 times the parameters of what they have now, he's just raised the bar for everybody else that even dreams of being in the space. And I would imagine every single month there's lots and lots of people.
Exactly, and constantly having input of at least 4, 5, 6 million cars, bringing back information to the mothership. Who has that? Nobody. Nobody has that. So good luck trying to do that.
Yeah, and as James said, unless there's a breakthrough with synthetic data or whatever, it's highly unlikely in my opinion. And of course, Tesla can benefit from that too. But it's not just about Tesla's FSD today may be better than an average human. That's just the beginning for Tesla. They're still getting started on this FSD journey. They're going to be improving this model for years, if not decades to come.
Yeah. And then, of course, we all know already there's 7 million Teslas that are capable of doing robotaxis at this point. By 3 years from now, let's say there's 10 million, 15 million, and then what about the competitors? Let's say it becomes ubiquitous. Everybody has this ability to do this. How many cars will they be able to produce by the time? Just
they won't be
yeah.
cost competitive. And I know Jeff Lutz always talks about, what is it, unit cost. Nobody can do. They already have the Model Y, the number one selling car on the planet. That's only going to ramp further now that they're through all the teething problems, hopefully. And then they're turning those into robotaxis first, which I think is great because it's the world's best car. Why not make it a robotaxi? And then the other big question that people have, though, is when is the yellow one, the golden one, launching?
The Cybercabs?
Yeah. So, in fact, this is a quick slide. This is interesting because there was talk of South Korea FSD launching. Paris had their robotaxi show launching, which why would they show this car in Paris, France, if they don't have an intention of rolling it out over there too? And China, I don't believe is a market. I don't think anybody does for robotaxis because labor is so cheap. But South Korea definitely is. Tokyo.
You're joking.
definitely is.
You're joking. You think they're not going to roll out robotaxi in China?
Well, there's no point because the driver costs nothing anyway. There's no big money market potential. There's no TAM there in China.
But I mean, all these pony and whatever they are called doing currently robotaxis. I mean, we know it's
They're
not
so
the
cheap.
same in China.
In Singapore, you can go from the airport to downtown in a hotel. It costs a couple of dollars. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the same issue that the hamburger costs much less there. But I do believe there is a market in China as much as it is somewhere else.
well, we're having a debate. I like that.
That's good. Me too.
What do you guys think?
Larry
Yeah.
Goldberg agrees with you, James. He thinks that it's not okay. It's not that it won't have a market. It's just not as lucrative as the Western market. They're more motivated because the cost for transportation is so big. It impacts the cost of producing factories and goods here, and the economy is so lucrative if they can reduce the cost of transportation. In China, it's already very low. It is true that many people have their own private drivers, and again, there's this very big discrepancy, of course, of the population in China of super rich and super poor. But is there a market for? Yes. Is it going to be as lucrative as the U.S.? No. That's the point. Now, because the size, because there's so many more people, so much more business, and so forth, could that make up for it? Probably.
Yeah, no, I think you guys raised some interesting points. I sort of see both sides of this. I think long term, there's an incredible opportunity in China for robotaxi. The question is how long it takes to develop. Chinese, I think, love technology as much as we do. I think people would love to buy FSD capable vehicles. So I think that's an interesting market opportunity in China in the near term. Just like we have all, very clearly shown what we'd rather do with our time. Everybody wants to be on their phones. I'm sure the Chinese feel exactly the same way. As for robotaxi, that may take longer to develop because the economic pressures aren't as great in China. And that's to James's point, I think, on that. But yet, I think even there, the cost dynamics will be so favorable to robotaxi. Eventually, it'll be so compelling economically that's just the way it's going to go. But that may not be the primary market opportunity initially. Certainly, U.S. and Europe are the two big markets.
And then you heard Elon a little bit talking about his frustration of how slow it is in Europe.
Yeah, he's made two comments now over 2 different days, basically asking people to, talk to their representatives and put pressure on governments to try to approve supervised FSD in Europe. The European regulatory authorities have just really dragged their feet, and I would imagine that Tesla has shown them all kinds of data that shows really beyond a reasonable doubt how much safer supervised FSD is.
That is one reason, I think, James, why they showed off the Cybercab in Paris. And then just yesterday, they also dropped a new video, right, of FSD supervised going around Italy, Rome, Italy. They've done one for Paris. They've done one for multiple European countries at this point.
James, you're on mute.
I was just saying the Norwegians will do whatever they want anyway, and the Dutch are very stubborn. They'll do the same thing. And once one domino drops, the rest will have to do it. And Europe is facing that. I don't want to get political, but that awakening now is like centralized control is not good. So maybe.
I mean, actually, the key point is the Netherlands, because Tesla's Europe administrative center is in the Netherlands, and they have chosen to go via the Netherlands to bring it to the European Union. So if the Netherlands approve it, it is automatically rolled out in the whole of Europe. So the Netherlands is really crucial. And just for the sake of it, I was actually asked last night by a Danish follower of mine to help him write a letter to the Danish authorities to push the Dutch, because obviously this is all European, politics. It took me 2 minutes on Grok to do so. Grok gave me the address to send to, formulated the letter. So you don't need me to prepare letters. Use your AI tool that you prefer. I use Grok all the time. Put in that you want to write a letter to your relevant, if you're in Europe, to your relevant competent administration, and write those letters. More Tesla drivers do that, the sooner this will move.
Are you a Tesla fanboy? Why don't you use woke AI, Alexandra? Sorry, we're frisky today.
I'm not a boy. I don't know, but not a boy.
Fan queen.
Fangirl. She calls herself
fanboy
a fangirl.
is a term without any sex associated with it. Sorry about that.
Oh my God, I can't anymore for all this woke shit. Sorry about that.
The other thing real quick too is this whole regulatory test for Europe actually is a test for what's about to come with humanoid robots and the approval of those. If Europe doesn't think Robotaxi matters to their economy, this is a test to see if they understand what's coming with the next round of this. Because if they drag their heels on approving operation of humanoid robots, either in workplace or even in homes, they're going to be economically destroyed by those countries that do approve this.
Yep, it's already a problem, and I hope they realize the writing is very clearly on the wall. Either regulate everything to death and die, or start innovating fast. That's it. So,
yep.
Anyway.
Let's do quick fire questions.
So I thought this would be fun because I want to pick your brains. I'm not just here to hang out and have fun. So I came up with this idea last night: quick fire questions. Because again, these are things that people are asking. Will Cybercab be available for public nationwide booking by the end of 2025, early 2026? That means, will people be able to buy one of these things for their own purposes or run their own car? So the yellow ones will not, but your own Model Y or whatever AI4 car, yes. People want to know, when will they be able to run it?
Cybercab,
1 year later.
Yeah, 1 year later, end of 26, maybe 27.
Okay. Søren, any comments, yes or no?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think that's the early priority for Tesla with Cybercab. It's to get these out in their fleet in operation. And then at that point, once they've really ramped up production, I think individuals will be able to buy them.
Excellent.
I still doubt, by the way, why Tesla wants to sell the Cybercab to individuals. They absolutely do not need to at all.
It's the anti-monopoly thing again.
And so why sell it next year? Maybe sell it 2 years away from now.
Well, maybe, yeah.
I still don't think they'll sell it. I still don't think they will sell the cab.
Or fleet companies.
Yes, fleet companies
too.
Yes,
or,
yes.
Okay.
So not individuals. Not like, oh, I want one. No. It's going to be like if you're running a fleet management company and you want to buy 20, 100 of them. Yes.
Like you had that Dutch guy on your channel. He's got like thousands of them. And so that's
5,000.
Okay, next question. People are very worried about this with the recent events not far from where Alexandra is right now or from where I am. Can Tesla reduce robotaxi vandalism in high-risk areas through advanced surveillance and geofencing technology, or press a button, get out of this area now? People are very worried that these things will be vandalized, as what we saw to the 4 poor Waymos. I mean, millions and millions of dollars destroyed. Thoughts, anybody? Yes, no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Tesla's ability to intervene and to block certain zones for all their cars, not only the robotaxis, also for, inform drivers, say, don't go there, is absolutely instant. I mean, when you go today into your Tesla, you know the weather at your destination. So the way Tesla has always set up their AI is way better than Waymo. But just to make that point as well, Waymo was late, but was able to then call back many of their cars and get them out of that zone.
So the reason this thing is burning fires because the firemen could not get into this area because it was a riot. That was the reason these guys go. For Tesla, yes, there's going to be vandalism. Did we not already see vandalism for regular Teslas? It will happen. But the good news, just like what happened in the past, these are regular Model Ys. So they just flip it out the next day with another Model Y and they fix this one. They just bring it to the same service center and they fix it. It's going to be paid by insurance. It's nothing burger, not going to be a big impact. They'll deal with it within basically less than 24 hours.
The other thing I would add here too is you'll be able to talk to the vehicle. So if you're sitting in as a passenger, you could actually ask your car, hey, are there any hotspots in the city today? Please avoid them. And I'm sure the car would reassure you and say, yes, I'm already aware of that. So that's another element too, is you'll be able to have a conversation with the vehicle and understand what it's thinking and what it knows.
Yeah, and one of the most
he will start that. The car will say, look, you want to go somewhere, I would recommend we're not going there.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most profound things I think that I picked up this year so far, I think was uttered by your lips, Søren, if I'm not mistaken. You said that, could have been Jeff Lutz though, I don't remember. You said that Tesla no longer needs to make cars to sell them. They already have an audience for their cars, and that's Robotaxi. Yeah, it's just people can't wrap their heads around what that means. Give us that in 30 seconds back again, Søren. It's so powerful.
Well, historically, Tesla's been reliant on consumer demand to sell a vehicle. Now they're creating a new demand for their vehicles. That's their own internal fleet. And so if customers aren't buying vehicles, or if the fleet doesn't need as many vehicles, then vice versa, they can sell to consumers. But now Tesla can run their factories at whatever the optimal production rate is, and they don't have to worry about customer demand because they can just take the surplus into their own fleet.
Yeah,
there's actually proof for that. There's proof for that because Berlin was running at half of capacity, and the German press thought they were really onto something on, are they going to be people fired and whatever, and made a whole fuss about it. And then Tesla in Berlin in Grünheide just confirmed that, no, we're not letting anybody go. There's no worries. We know we need our capacity sooner or later. Here you go. That is exactly what we need it for.
Exactly. Yeah. And this dovetails perfectly into what Herbert said. If there's a flat tire or a car is damaged, another one will just float out of Austin, Texas, and go straight onto the city to operate. Next question, which also, because of the spat that happened a few days ago, people were worried that maybe due to political issues, federal regulations would go from approving it nationwide to blocking it nationwide. And this is a concern that people have because of politics. Herbert.
Yeah, it's an absolute, probably the biggest concern at this point. There's no ways around it. I think that regulatory approval is important for Tesla in terms of rolling out Robotaxi, which is the key program that needs to be rolled out this year. However, having said that, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I've always been saying for a long time, I don't think it's an issue because it's not like, unless they create a rule that says no one can use autonomous cars at all in the entire United States, okay, then that's a concern. But what will happen is, okay, they might delay federal framework, but then a state will step up, a city will step up and says, no, we're going to allow it. Come on to us. And then they roll out there, they roll it to the next city, and they roll it to the next city. It's like it's going to be up. Like it's going to be less likely that all states go no, versus some states will raise their hand and says, "Please come to us." So I don't actually think regulatory is going to be an issue at all or roadblock.
I would even go further than that. Yesterday in the press conference, the press asked our press speakering of President Trump whether President Trump has now engaged in starting to check on contracts for Elon-owned companies. And she was just bursting into laughter. She couldn't hold it and said, no, he didn't and he won't. So that was a clear statement, and that was that. So, the press was obviously hoping that there was something, coming to be uncovered and whatever. No, this story is over. I am certain it's only my conviction, but my conviction is that Duffy is working as much on autonomy, federal autonomy, than he was 2 weeks ago. And that the choice of Texas to launch this was the right one, because obviously Austin was extremely quick to adopt the autonomous regulation and give the permit to Tesla. It will roll out in Texas, as quickly as it can. I think California is coming as well. I actually think there is a bargaining going on. I mean, there's still so many Tesla employees in California that I don't think California can resist. And once Texas and California are open, the federal permit will arrive, and that's it. I don't see any delay in this whole thing.
Very good. Next question in the quickfire round. Could Tesla face a real risk of losing its AI edge to Chinese competitors like BYD and Huawei? This is, again, we touched on it today, and we touched on it again, and we'll probably have to touch on it in a month from now. But again, is this competition a threat? Because I don't think it is, because they're going to be Chinese solutions which won't actually be allowed to operate probably in the Western nations. Who knows? What do you guys think?
Well, I think it comes down to the AI compute ability that the Chinese have. And again, I don't think we should be lackadaisical about this. I think this is a long-term risk to Tesla. But as it stands right now, Tesla has the latest and greatest, AI chips and AI compute and everything. Are the Chinese there right now? From what I can tell, I don't believe they are. But, I wouldn't count them out over a long period of time.
Awesome. So that's kick that one to death. Tesla XAI merger likely within the next 3 years. A lot of people believe the synergy makes complete sense. I think strategically, if there is a problem with the comp plan for Elon Musk, it'll get him to 25%. And I think that is the biggest, most important forcing function here. What do you all think?
Maybe I can add something. I was asked this point by some institutions lately, nothing to do with X, just some fund managers and analysts. And I don't believe that is the preferred option of Elon. I believe he likes to keep XAI where it is at the moment, because the people that are working there are a different type of people than the people that are working in Tesla. And I don't think there is, a real merger happening. Does it mean there is no small investment from Tesla into XAI possible? That may be the case. I do believe the preference is getting Elon with other means to his 25% voting power, not ownership of shares, voting, and then that problem is probably off the table for a while. Now, let me make it very clear. The Wall Street people I talk to, which are not the Wall Street people I usually talk to, they are all convinced there is a merger coming. They're as convinced as something can be. I don't see it, but I may be completely off it.
I think it's, I would give it less than 5% chance that Tesla and XAI will have a merger. What's the value for XAI to go public? And there's too many things that is more negative for it than positive. Elon does not want to take XAI to become a public company when it merges with Tesla. Too much regulation, too much reporting. This is the path to AGI. Do you want that to be a
excellent point?
IP, do you want it to be public? I think that Elon wants to have the two separated, right? One's creating the intelligence, the other one's creating the manufacturing. He wants to control, you don't want the bots to be able to become sentient and take over the world. This is the way to do it. You have control of the brains. And then the other part would be 25% voting control to control the decisions somebody might have. If somebody buys Tesla because it's public, let's say some consortium, the Russian consortium, the Chinese consortium, they come together and they buy Tesla out $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $5 trillion. That's nothing these days. You can buy out the company. It's public. You want to shut down the brains as fast as possible. That's what you control.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that are FOMOing into XAI on private markets because they believe it's going to happen. So if you're thinking about that at home, ladies and gentlemen, don't do it.
You don't think so? So you don't think so, James?
I don't think so. I think they're better off alone. There's more power. And also think about the monopolistic risk. That's my biggest factor that puts a pin in this. They will control everything. They'll have the most compute on the planet, the most information on the planet, be fed through the biggest
And the
data
bots.
source on the planet.
That's
It's tied
scary,
into
buddy.
everything. It's more powerful if it's separate, I believe.
Yeah.
CERN, thoughts? Yes or no?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And just to build on that thought, I think that it's also a little bit of a hedge for Elon and his grand plans. That if he's got these separate companies, if there's a hiccup at Tesla, if the board fires him or kicks him out for some crazy reason, or who knows what happens, then he's got these other entities that that he's in control of. And so, why be in a rush to merge all that together? And I think the monopoly idea, I think, for me is the biggest concern, putting these entities together, as you said, James.
The only reason people take companies public, right, is because they want the cash. They want money and then funding. Elon doesn't zero need for that. He could at any moment say, I want $100 billion. Everybody will step up and give him $100 billion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've seen the latest OpenAI round, right? 40 billion now, 40 billion, like that.
It's big.
And just 6 months ago, Alexandra, we were all having this conversation, and people were going, I think AI is like a blip or commodity, and it's not worth $5 billion. And you and I were like,
right. And this is related. Everybody wants an Optimus. Kim Kardashian probably has one.
Well,
when will they be commercially available for personal purchase?
I mean, before 2028, you got to be kidding. I need somebody to do my ironing. I mean, every 6 months I put my picture out and nothing's happening.
You said you were good at ironing. Why do you want to give up that
I want to
skill?
teach it, and then I want to see where they can do it. That's like how I did with my 5 kids. They're all good at ironing now.
Yeah. So you're yes on this one, Herbert. Can we buy one before 2028? Everybody wants one.
2028. Okay, so
2.5 years.
Yeah. Every robot vendor is going to tell you it's coming. By next year, he'll be here. Every video will share you. But I'm very skeptical that it's going to be on a consumer. The reason why is that to become a cobot, that is a high bar. That means that this robot cannot kill vulnerable individuals, people in this wheelchair, children, elderly. That the arms, if it accidentally makes a move, it doesn't break your arms. That's the part that's scary. Not whether or not can it do as many tasks as it needs to be able to do things that you find valuable. It's cobot thing, that's the thing. I'm not sure yet. This is designed specifically for factory. This is not yet as safe as you think it is. So that's the only part I don't know.
We did see one freaking out in a Chinese factory. I don't remember what it was called, but CERN, the bot guy, what do you think?
I agree with Herbert. I think no, because the bot is so economically valuable in a commercial or a factory situation.
Right.
That is a huge savings to people that run, factories with 3 shifts. In the home, sure, there's some people that would pay, $250,000 or more for a bot. Absolutely. But that's a pretty tiny market. But at the factory, there's millions of bots that could be deployed, earning, $100,000 a year for Tesla for a long time to come.
Yeah, so Larry Goldberg will pay $250,000 to get that bot there. Kim Kardashian, Alexander Mertz will buy one for $300,000. But the regular people like us...
No, I will not. No, I will not.
For the ironing.
Because I get it for free to teach it. You don't get it. It's gonna be
It's a skill you'll put on the App Store. It's called Mertz Ironing.
Exactly.
$20 a month.
It'll be the most successful app of the whole thing.
Yeah, the future's gonna be wild. So I think
Boomer Mama ironing.
Boomer ironing. That's it.
If Tesla can scale these things, possible. But Elon also hinted that employees would be able to get one. Anyway, moving on. We got to be fast. This was so interesting because over the last 2 weeks, we had Morgan Stanley, Jonas saying drones. The president signed something yesterday, a military executive order, invest in drones, big. And then Elon retweeted. It's a bit hard to see if anybody can read that. He said, well, this AI not kill everyone memes thing, a FSD drone beat a human for the first time ever, and Elon's ... which hints at told you so. It's real.
Yeah. What can you go back to your thing? What's your question?
Is
Next
Tesla
5
likely
years?
to expand into drones?
It's already
and
happening
military?
now, James. It's already happening today, is my position.
What? Wow.
I believe that Tesla's
Behind
already
the
making drones because a couple of reasons. One is they're making not just an humanoid robot, they're making different kinds of bot animals. They call cars robots with wheels. Having robots that fly is nothing to them. They're already building it. They have prototypes of this. They are going to get into this market. Yes, it's people will say, oh, it's military. You got to be careful. You don't want to position as military. But you know that Elon has said many, many, many times, you have to have drones. Drones are more powerful than jets. And that any country that don't have drones, you are going to be subservient to any country that does. China is a leader in drones. I think that Elon will consider this a humanity, a country, just like he thinks about the debt, that positions America in a bad position. He thinks that this is one of those. I bet you they're already working on it.
And Robert is right for once.
Yeah, the challenge here, it's crushing to say this, but 70% of the battlefield casualties in Eastern Europe right now are caused by drones, which is horrific to think. It's even horrific to think that a kinetic war can happen in this day and age, and it shows you how crazy humans are. But that being said, Elon is very anti-war. Is there a purpose for drones to maintain the
prevent
peace?
war? Yeah, it's like the nuclear thing, right? The arms race. You have to have your thing to prevent their.
And you have to be as competitive as possible to actually calm everybody down. It's not nice, but there's a race to strength.
Because I've seen the size of Pentagon contracts. Can you imagine what would happen to Tesla's stock price, CERN, if they got a military contract? Come on, he's a big smile on CERN's face. What happened?
We're going to have to model that because, my view on this is just, the folks that think that companies shouldn't be involved in any military thing. I think that's misguided because at the end of the day, as we've just discussed, that if you don't have a military technology, that's the technology that's going to destroy you. If you don't invest in drones, drones are going to defeat you. If you don't invest in nuclear weapons, the other party has an advantage over you. So all these technologies, we have to get to that point where we have got that deterrence point. Tesla and or SpaceX, I could see SpaceX making the drone, perhaps other than Tesla. But Tesla for me would be probably the leading candidate of all Elon's companies.
In mass manufacturing, it's got Tesla.
No. First of all, you've heard Elon say SpaceX, he's refused military contracts with SpaceX.
Well, that's not true. They provided Starlinks to Ukraine. Maybe they weren't paid for it. Right.
Yeah, there's a gray area for sure.
Yeah. But CERN. So the question was, can you imagine the stock price? And I say, can you imagine the golden Cybertruck with that stock price?
Yes, I can.
There we go.
What does the stock price have to be, CERN, before you buy your wife a golden Cybertruck?
I need to run some calculations.
Oh my God.
But, I just want to warn a little bit of investment advice here, which we don't do on this channel. But the opportunity cost of selling your stock to buy a vehicle over the next 2 years is very high. So just keep your beater or lease a car for $200, $300 a month. That's what you need to do.
Wait. That's easy to say after he bought himself a Cybertruck.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's not.
I do it for safety reasons. I live in California and I need safety. I need bulletproofness.
And his wife is not allowed to be in a bulletproof car?
She thinks she won't.
Wow.
She goes everywhere I go.
Oh.
Okay.
Did you see that video that she released? Am I allowed to talk about that? Because she publicized it, right?
Her song.
Yeah.
No, James, did you see this? Can I talk about this? Yeah.
Of course.
She posted it on X, and then so she's in her car. This guy with a Ferrari drives up to them, and she starts videotaping him, and they have the conversation. And the guy in the Ferrari, and his friend, they're hitting on her. They're saying, "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen."
I saw that. I was wondering. I didn't know she was
going to have a race
because
obviously her car. She's in a Tesla.
Model Y.
Mm-hmm. The Model Y, and she can beat the Ferrari. The Model Y, the mom can beat the Ferrari. So it was funny. But CERN. The guy was hitting on her, saying, "You're the most
Exactly.
beautiful woman I've
In a
ever seen, and
Cybertruck,
you're not
it
going
Be much
to get her
safer.
what she wants."
I'm not worried.
Okay, anyways.
I'm with James.
All right.
James is backing me up on this. Thanks, James.
Oh,
You're a
Oh,
good
yeah,
James,
friend.
come on.
I've
Oh,
seen at
oh,
least
careful.
2 of our music videos. Very, very talented. You guys are a perfect couple. So congratulations to you both.
And I mean, I
Okay.
just can't believe that you give her the Model Y and you keep the Cybertruck. There's something wrong here.
Yeah, something's really wrong.
Did I
Thank you
do
for
this
your
well?
support.
I think I
You guys are all great. I appreciate you all.
see you next week. See you next week.
See you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
you so
James.
much.
Appreciate you, Tessa Boomer Mama, and CERN the Botball. Thanks, everybody.
Always a
Thank
fun
you.
time. Thank you.